Final score at Ashton Gate, Bristol City 0, City 3. Well, let's go back to the studio, and I'm sure we can hear the views of Natalie Pike alongside Esme and Nedum.
Thank you so much to Ali Man for the excellent commentary this evening. As usual, welcome back to Match Day Live. City have made it 11 FA Cup victories away from home in a row, and I didn't jinx anything, Nedum.
Have you prepared a stat for the weekend as well, or not?
Probably. Give me time.
Okay.
One game at a time, Nedum, one game at a time.
Yeah,
I was fully focused on this game.
Yes,
As
you
I'm sure
did a stellar job, yeah.
Thank you very much. So City are through to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. The draw, by the way, will take place tomorrow evening following the Sheffield United, I think it's Spurs game that is on BBC One here in the UK. So the draw is after that game for the quarter-final of the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup, Esme. Absolutely made up with that. How are you feeling?
Yeah, good. I think second half we looked a little bit more comfortable. I think Bristol didn't really threaten, and obviously got another couple of goals to kind of completely kill the atmosphere inside the stadium and swat away any momentum that they had. And yeah, I enjoyed watching it. It was good to see Phil. Well, I mean, is he taking that goal? Yeah. Up for debate. But anyway, he was in the right position, and we'd been bemoaning actually Alvarez not letting it run for Bernardo, but he made the right decision in the end to sort of take a touch and slide it through. And Kevin, lovely finish from just outside the edge of the box.
It was perhaps a few minutes of nerves in the game, but all in all, Nedum, it was pretty much a good night. I never got too nervous. I never felt like we were too under pressure. Never felt like we had to either go up into another gear either.
Yeah, I think that is fair. I think there were times when Bristol did have a few sort of breaks and there was a sense of excitement, but some of that comes because they've got 20,000 fans there watching them. So everything that they do just sounds more energetic and more exciting than it is. I think there were a couple of mistakes that City made which offered them a little bit of encouragement. But again, how many shots did the goalies have to save? It's not that many. How many clear-cut chances did they have? Not that many. But there were a few moments which felt quite perilous. But then think what that was like from their perspective. How many times City were in their box, the amount of touches they had in there. So I think all in all, it was a very, very good away performance in the FA Cup.
So let's talk about the goals in the second half. So you mentioned it already. A goal from either Phil Foden or an own goal. If it does go for Phil Foden, I can't wait to see what the official thing is. It would be 10 FA Cup goals for him, more than anyone else currently in the squad. What did you make of the second goal, and who are you giving it to?
Oh, it's tricky because the first few camera angles we got weren't telling us much, but I think the last one where it was kind of from behind that far post, I mean, it looked like it was heading well wide, and then the defender's touch kind of just completely changed the direction of it. But it was a well-worked move, to be fair. I think it was Ake pulled it back nicely, and we were kind of queuing up on the edge of the area, and Alvarez just opened up, slid it to Foden, and in the end, it ended up in whether it was him or the defender's help, but it was a nicely worked goal in the lead up to it anyway.
The FA's website, by the way, and the BBC website are both crediting it to Foden. Are you having that?
Just keep an eye on that. Just keep an eye on that throughout the night. I think that might get dealt with. There's one angle where it looks like it's going wide, but, you know, at the end of the day, a goal is a goal, isn't it?
Yes.
Phil's not going to turn it away.
No.
I won't turn it away for him. If they're giving it to him, let him have it. Top
Absolutely.
City FA Cup scorer.
Love that. And it also felt like it came at a time when, I don't know, not when we needed it, because I don't think we were under pressure, but at the same time, I didn't want to go into the last 15 sort of minutes feeling like we could be. Yeah,
I think for sides who are underdogs and who are down in the game, you are looking at the clock and you know your mentality does start to change from about the 75th minute, because you know that, you know, you can throw a bit more at the opposition and you're not really worried as much about, say, the potential outcome if things go the wrong way, because there's not enough time for it to really get out of hand, essentially. So I think the fact that it came, I believe it came just before that.
74, yeah.
Literally a minute before. That's a spirit killer, because the manager himself, Pearson, maybe he was thinking about another sub to bring on, something to try and change the dynamic of the game, be more aggressive. But that task of thinking you just need one for extra time to all of a sudden needing two, you can't open up against City. You'd just be punished for it. So again, I think as Esme made a great point before, it takes the air out of the stadium. You know, it's a proper spirit killer. And it was such a well-worked goal as well. You know, that's probably what makes it worse, because you're almost helpless to just watch your side tear you apart yet again at a point when you thought you were essentially going toe-to-toe with them, but in an instant they can just go and do that.
That's the thing, a lot of times when you concede, you can pinpoint, oh, we lost the ball there, or this person was out of position there, but actually the defending wasn't really bad for any of the 3 goals. It was just top-class play by City that allowed us to cut them open and finish.
Yeah, and the third goal came 7 minutes later. A vintage Kevin De Bruyne goal. Lovely ball from Grealish. And perhaps Kev not having the best day, but he still tops it off with a goal, Esme.
Yeah, it was a lovely way to pass from Grealish, just right into stride for De Bruyne, and it reminded me of his goal at home against Chelsea last year when he cut in from the left and swept it into that far corner and did the same again. It was a lovely finish, just like skipping off the turf into the net.
That's what Kev can do, though, isn't it, Nedum? You know, not have a great day at the office by his high standards, still get a goal when it's needed.
Yeah, of course, yeah. And, you know, as captain, like Esme was saying, he tries to lead by example, and I think what he did well, even though it wasn't his best day ever, he still tries to get on the ball, still tries to make the game tick, you know, still trying to control the pace of the game. I think there's some players who's trying to shy away from it if things aren't going their way, but he's definitely not that. And lo and behold, as the game was progressing, he was getting more of a stranglehold on it. And then it's a fantastic finish. I think the ball from Grealish is like perfectly weighted. Probably didn't expect someone to have a shot with it, but then still there he was. Didn't even take a touch to control it. Just was biding his time and then bang, just put it into the corner like it's a passing drill. That's real quality.
So 3-0. Great positive that we got a clean sheet tonight.
Yeah, I mean, I was hoping we'd grab an extra one so my prediction to come true, but
So was I, actually, believe it or not.
Oh, really? I thought you wanted them to score.
Well, I'm just talking about extra goals. I would have taken another goal in the game.
Oh, OK. Well, I think, to be fair, it's awkward having to change keepers midway through a game. It's not something that you'd be used to and a bit unsettling. I mean, there are a few hairy moments in the second half with a bit of sort of uncertainty, miscommunication with loose balls, but I think they'll be pleased to get a clean sheet on the board, and it's something that you want to build coming into the closing stages of the season. If you can just shut teams out, then obviously you're halfway there to winning, and I think the defence is going to be a huge part of the rest of the season now. Yeah,
absolutely, especially, Nedum, when we've conceded a few iffy goals, or maybe disappointing goals in recent weeks. To have that same 4 shored up clean sheet tonight, that's great for the confidence.
Yeah, it is. But there's Kyle Walker on the bench. I quite like him. He's a pretty good footballer. It would be nice to see him play at some point. But I think that's the competition for places, essentially. And also, like, spin zone here, I'm going to take a non-defensive approach. If City conceded in every game between now and the end of the season but won every game, I've got no issues. You know what I mean? Like, you want them to keep clean sheets, but I want them to just score more than the opposition. That's the most important thing.
Poor Edison, though. He's been on these 99 Premier League clean sheets for about 5 weeks.
If he's lifting trophies at the end of the season, I think he'll be all right. You
don't think he's going to be like, I didn't get my 100?
I think he'll be all right. I could be wrong, but I think he'll be all right. And I get it, because, you know, clean sheets, they're obviously very important to a certain extent, but it matters more so when you win a game of football. You know, if you're keeping clean sheets and drawing 0-0, the joy isn't the same. You can get his record, but you lose ground if you're not getting the points that you need to and the goals that you need at the other end. So it's in some ways disappointing, but to put it into perspective, every team concedes goals they think that they shouldn't be conceding. And also for City, I think they've got the 3rd best defensive record in the league. It's not that bad, trust me.
Yes. Absolutely. It's funny when you put it like that and you think of some of the negative things that are being said or being felt about us, and you say something like that. It's just perhaps a reflection of the high standard we've set ourselves over the years.
Yeah, perfection is a very tough thing to attain, but apparently people can do it all the time now, allegedly.
I think people just love to beat City with any stick they can find most of the time, so negatives are found where for other teams they might not be.
Absolutely. Another positive from tonight, though, Calvin Phillips played the full game. We talked about him before the game as well. What did you make of his performance?
Yeah, I think that'll be really good for his match sharpness. I was really impressed with some of his passing. I think in the first half he made a few really nice punch passes through the lines, and second half he just seemed to keep it simple, just ticking over, doing pretty much exactly the Rodri role that we've grown to see, just receiving the ball, moving it on 5-10 yard passes and allowing allowing the creative players to go and just express themselves by being an anchor in midfield. But I think it was a really good, steady performance to hopefully build his confidence in the system and be a bit of a platform for him now over the coming weeks to sort of step off that and maybe make more of a name for himself in the team.
Of course, mentioning him means that, as you say, Rodri got a rest. Rodri got a rest tonight. You mentioned Kyle Walker, who got a rest tonight. Obviously, Erling Haaland got a rest tonight. I'm sure they all wanted to play, but is that beneficial in the long run, do you think, that they're getting a rest?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Do you know what? It's rest, but it's not really a rest because they're still playing essentially every week anyway, Saturdays. You know, to not play midweek isn't necessarily like the ultimate rest in itself. But yeah, it will make a difference. There'll probably be less fatigue because it's an early kick-off on the Saturday. But these guys as well, they also like momentum and form. And when you're playing week in, week out, that's a great chance to just play well and just have the ultimate confidence when you're on the field. But yeah, it's good that they've got the ability to rotate at this point of the season and to look around from top to bottom in the squad and know that people are playing well. Know that whoever you send out there can have a huge impact. And like with Calvin today, like he played a good game. He moved the ball really well, and defensively he got in a few key tackles at key points. So that's that sense that sort of comes through playing the matches itself, and the fact that he's got that is a huge positive. And yeah, things are looking good. I'm getting a nice feel at the minute. Yeah.
Oh, good. I'm so happy about that because I've been going through a nervous feeling. But now, when you think we're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup, again, we've got a phenomenal run in the FA Cup now. By the way, those games will be played, the quarterfinal games, draw takes place tomorrow. They'll be played over the weekend of the 18th and 19th of March, which means the game that we had on Sunday, the 9th of March at home to West Ham will now have to be rearranged, obviously, because we're in the quarterfinals of the FA Cup. I love the FA Cup, Esme. Obviously, women's team through, the men's team through. It just gives a good feel about the place.
Yeah, it's going well. It is. Everyone talks about the magic of the FA Cup, but there is a sort of special air about it, and it is such a prestigious trophy for anyone to win that it's pretty high on the priority list. And we've got so many good memories as a sort of Gen Z City fan, that having been the first trophy, and I'm sure for any City fan, to be honest, sort of breaking that however many years it was that they had the banner at Old Trafford telling us, but it tore that down, and it was such a pivotal moment for the club's recent history to sort of set off this era that we've had now.
Absolutely, I was there. I'll never, ever forget it. It's also the FA Youth Cup quarterfinals on Tuesday as well, and you can watch City's game on City Plus and Recast. Our next game will be in the Premier League on Saturday. It is a 12:30 kickoff, a lunchtime kickoff for you as City take on Newcastle United. Cannot wait for a game back at the Etihad after 5 long away trips in a row. Newcastle, of course, lost in the League Cup final at the weekend. They're not on a great run of form at the minute, Nedum.
No, they're not. They've been slipping down a little bit, but they've still lost the fewest amount of games in the Premier League. So even though they don't get a ton of wins, they are quite tough to play against still. I think some of the disappointment they're having now is that they're not really getting the ball into the goal, but they've also got the best defensive record. So this is
by a mile, by the way, on the
defense. By a country mile. But the thing is, they're sliding down the rankings with that. How you mentioned before about clean sheets. Clean sheets doesn't necessarily always mean progress. That's the prime example. Yes. So in regards to that, their season now is very, very focused on them finishing in the top 4, I believe, because they're out of the FA Cup. They've just lost in the League Cup final. There's nothing else for them to be playing for because they're not in Europe. So these last 15 games, whatever it is for them, are the most important that they've had in a very long time. It's going to set the tone, not just for this season, but what next season looks like. It could be important in terms of their recruitment in the summer. So their focus is definitely going to be just straight down the line now. Every one of these games for them will essentially be a cup final as such. And given the fact that Spurs have now snuck into 4th, every game they play between now and the end of the season is huge for them. And I'm sure there's going to be 100% commitment from them. And the travelling fans they bring to the Etihad are going to be very, very loud, trust me.
In terms of that defence, they've conceded 15 goals in the Premier League this season. If you compare that to us, we've conceded 25, or you compare that to Arsenal, who've conceded 23. But you also mentioned the attacking side of it. they've only scored 35 compared to our 64. So they have been really strong in defence this season, Esme, but they are kind of still seem to be lacking that edge at the other end of the pitch, especially when Callum Wilson isn't firing like he was at the start of the season. Yeah,
they're not blowing teams away as you've seen City, Arsenal, United even do this season or across the season and in recent weeks. But I think, as you've alluded to, as long as you can grind out results, it's a results business. It doesn't matter necessarily how many goals you're scoring. So as long as they can sort of keep that defensive stoutness going, it doesn't necessarily matter so much that they're not absolutely smashing teams at the other end of the pitch. But I think obviously when you then come up against top class opposition and you need to win those top of the table battles to get into the Champions League spaces, that's when that becomes a major issue, because you're facing teams who are also having tougher defensive efforts to come up against. And yeah, I think that's probably something they're going to look to address in the summer and moving forward with investment, is trying to be a bit more expansive and being a bit more threatening, I suppose, going forward. But having a strong defence is a great foundation for what they're trying to do this year.
So they currently sit 4 points behind Spurs, who are in 4th, they're in 5th, but they do have the 2 games in hand on them. Despite being in a bit of a poor run of form at the minute, they've only won 1 of their last 5 Premier League games. This is still a phenomenal season for them. If you think back to when Eddie Howe took over, what was that, maybe 14, 15 months ago, when they were near the bottom of the table, the rise, the way that he's led them in that time is quite extraordinary, really, Nedum.
Yeah, it sure is. And as well, it's not just on the field. They're a completely different club in general now. I think the way that the fans feel excited about the club, they feel like they've gotten their club back. They got rid of the previous ownership. The legends are being brought back to the football club. You know, they're all connected together, feels like one big family. And just the little details. I think after the final on Sunday, the manager made it so that they stayed an extra night and all the families and stuff stayed in the hotel together so they can all be gathered around and just try and bond from that sort of level, because he wants it to be like a family atmosphere at the football club. So it's completely different, and to give them credit, no one would have thought that in year 2 of what's going on in their project that they'd be in with a shout of the top 4. Obviously, it's come at because maybe Liverpool are now below standard, Chelsea below standard and the like, but the fact is they're still there. So it is very, very impressive. But I just would say, for context, I think based on what they wanted at the start of the season, it's great that they're in there now, but a lot is said within football about how you finish. Because even if they end up finishing 5th or 6th, potentially, it'll seem like it's a great achievement, but they would have fallen to 5th or 6th. So as you walk away from the season, that's what you remember the most, and you'll try and step back and say, oh no, it's okay because it's better than what we had. But there's a sense of disappointment that comes with something that's actually a great achievement. So I think they'll be doing everything they can to make sure that's not the case this season, because they've tasted what it's like to be up near the top. And I'm sure that they believe they can get back up there. And if they don't do it, then I think there'll be some level of disappointment with them.
Well, let's hope that they don't start any sort of resurgence on Saturday when we take Newcastle United on in the Premier League. That is a 12:30 kick-off UK time. Of course, Matchday Live will be here with you from 11:25 a.m. Esme, thank you so much. Best of luck for Sunday. You've got Spurs and, as you mentioned before, you're hoping to be back.
Yeah, fingers crossed, all being well.
Cannot wait. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. Nedum, thank you as always. Have you got a horrible week ahead of you?
No, I haven't actually. I'm good now. Actually, no. I've got to go to Salford tomorrow to go to a game, to cover a game. But aside from that, no, I'm good.
Okay. Oh, well, good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
Make a mask.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us on Matchday Live this evening. We really, really appreciate your company as always. City are through to the quarterfinals of the FA Cup again. 11 away games in the FA Cup in a row that we have won. I'm going to keep repeating that stat. The draw is tomorrow. The games will take place over the weekend of the 18th and the 19th of March. A 3-0 victory for City this evening. A clean sheet, goals for De Bruyne and 2 for Foden. What a perfect evening. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you on Saturday.
I love the song, mate. It's got a lovely little beat to it.
Gota! Oh! Gota turn. Gota scored.
I think the thing that made Sean Gota a fan favourite was his commitment.
It's a good pullback. It must be an equaliser. It's Sean Gota.
This was the game when it all sort of came together.
Oh, lovely ball. Gota! Gota makes it 5.
Genuinely, he knew exactly where to be and when to be there. And that's just pure instinct.
Although Gota's got the ball here. Gota's run it back and he's scored! That's amazing!
And the best way I could describe it is if Sean went fishing, he wouldn't need a rod, the fish would jump in the net.
Gota, Benamia, oh wonderful, Gota! Oh. Lovely ball through, Berkovic, Gota's in!